Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the 16 Bitchin' Podcast. And yes, that's right, it's another special one, if you couldn't figure out from title and pictures and not word of mouth, because no one's talking about this shit. But today we have someone that's more important than just a mere YouTuber here and there. We've got a video game creator, a man who is responsible for joy, wonder, rage, and bullshit. That is what a video game creator is in a nutshell. And today, it's the one and only Retro Gamer Boy!
Welcome to Live at the... Wait a minute.
Wrong thing, mate.
Wait a minute. This is not Live at the Arcade. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful, but now I'm interviewing you, you prick.
Yeah, I know. This is confusing.
Yes.
We usually sat in the same sort of seat, entertaining millions of people with our wit and gameplay skills.
I don't think I'd use the word entertaining.
No.
Torturing, maybe?
Yeah, torturing. It's a fun kind of torture, though, I like to think.
Yeah, you could use the word fun very loosely. Air quotes, maybe.
Yeah.
So if anyone is unfamiliar with what the fuck we're talking about, we are also on a live stream on the Retro Gamer Boy channel called Live at the Arcade, where Mike hosts it, plays video games, tries to be entertaining, and I put him down at every possible time, just trying to make him feel like really fucking small. And I'm pretty good at it. I don't know what games he plays half the time. I ignore that shit. I just go, did you die? Are you crap? And then someone will come up and it'll be like, Zoopy Doop Doop has subscribed to Retro Gamer Boy channels. You cunt. And if you're new to this podcast, that's right. This is an explicit content one with swearing. For example, blueberry bollocks. There you go. So anyway, enough of the horse shit. We're going to get right into some questions for Michael, which is his name. Now then, Mike, Retro Gamer Boy, when you decided to start YouTube, why that name?
Do you know what? I did a fuck ton of research.
That sounds about right for you.
Yeah, you know me, right? So I did a load of stuff before I started the Retro Gamer Boy channel up. I dabbled in just trying to be in front of the camera and not feel like an ass. And I tried to kind of, fail. Trying to get a feel for what I wanted to do. Once I was kind of comfortable with like, okay, cool, I'm going to do retro games. My style is going to be in front of the camera. Talking about shit. Once I got that, I then sat down and kind of just looked at what other channels were called and did a load of research on like, hey, look, your channel has to be something similar to what you're talking about, and then people get a good sense of who you are. So that's where it came from, is just looking around. And then there was a channel called the Retro Game Show, Retro Gamer Girl. That was it. There was Retro Gamer Girl. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to nick that and change it to boy.
Oh, I thought you had the hots for her or something.
No. I have had questions. I think she's had the same. She's changed her name now. But
you made her change her name, you horrible bastard.
I didn't make her change her name. I think her channel went in a different direction now. But I did have a lot of questions. Like, we used to get questions like, are we married and shit like that? But no, none of that. I nicked the first two letters of her channel.
R&E?
Yeah, basically.
Right. Why boy? Because for those of you that don't know, the Retro Refresh community, all of us YouTubers tend to talk in our own little group things. And what's the one joke that tends to fly your way a lot, Mike?
That I'm old.
That you're old.
Yeah.
Jamie's getting ready. Where can I type joke? I'm listening to this shit. I need to type joke. So why boy? Why not Retro Gamer Man or guy?
Because it's about the hobby, right? They're boys' toys, video games. When I was growing up, I grew up in the 80s, and this is what boys used to play with. There's a very clear, this is boys' toys. So it's less of a reflection of who I am, because when I introduce myself at the beginning of each video, I introduce myself as Mike, and the show is the Retro Gamer Boy show. And again, it just arcs back to when I was a kid, and like, people talk about video games. They're very much, it's always been male dominated, less so now. But back then it was pretty much like 99.9999999% boys would play it. So that's where that comes from. It's a reference to a bygone era where our hobby was, child and male dominated.
You researched the shit out of all this, didn't you? That's a very long way to say I picked boy because fuck it.
Yeah, well, I always have a little, games developer. I always have a reason for doing something. So I like to have some kind of personal some kind of connection to the things I do. So that's where it came from.
Well, before we get on to your games creating, because I'm sure there's some people who want to know some stuff about that. Let's see. Your content on your channel is mainly focused towards Mega Drive, but that's a pretty crappy description to just say you're a Sega Mega Drive channel. So if you had to describe the channel, not yourself, but the channel, how would you do that? What would you say?
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a hard one. So I would say definitely currently at the moment, it's heavily lent Sega focused. And a good deal of the content is looking at indie developers that are making amazing games for the Sega Mega Drive and the Sega Genesis. It's not just limited to those. I've covered some Nintendo stuff, but a large amount of it has been looking at developers making new games for old consoles. And that's something I've kind of started to lean in a lot more because I've got a game developer background. So, I've got a keen professional understanding of what they're doing. And I kind of want to bring that to audiences. So I think that's where the channel is at the moment. But like all YouTube-y stuff, if you watch any kind of YouTube-y stuff, things evolve and change and develop over time. So, it'll probably be a cookery program in 2 years' time. That seems to be where everyone's going. Or a meme channel.
That'd be quite funny, really. How to cook a blue hedgehog.
Yeah.
Still Mega Drive, it counts.
Still Mega Drive counts. But so I'm quite enjoying discovering developers and then bringing their games to fans of Mega Drive. I've got a Dreamcast one coming up soon. I've done Master System. I've started to branch out into Nintendo, although I've got a lot of Sega fans on my channel, and that makes some people angry. So
didn't you do a Nintendo video a little while ago, and it did not bad, but worse than the norm for you?
Yeah, I brought a new NES game up, and it didn't do too well. It got about 1,000 views. You compare that to not my last developer video, but the one before that, my last indie developer video got 84,000 views. So, there's a difference there. There's a weighting issue there.
Well, you do have, last I checked, over 11,000 subs. I don't want to know what it is, but I suppose I have to ask, how many subs do you have now, you bastard?
I think I'm about to hit, I probably might hit 13,000 today.
Fucking Ada. And yet just before Christmas, you're like, come on, lads, I need to hit that 10,000 before Christmas. And what did you do? Sneeze and just another 90 popped up? Oh, there you go. Never mind. I don't need you. Oh, okay.
I don't know. My stats have gone as insane. For my last month's YouTube stats, if anyone gives a shit about those sort of things, I got 2,100 subscribers in 1 month.
Fuck. I haven't hit that yet, so it's in 6 years plus for me.
I wish I could tell you what to do, but it's an absolute mystery. I have, people talk about the YouTube algorithm. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. I don't know what's going on with some stuff. Sometimes I get no subscribers, and then the next day I've got like 200. Like, what the hell's going on?
I will say to everyone, if you're thinking of copying Mike's appearance to get more subscribers, doesn't work, because both me and Jamie are baldy beardy buggers, just like Mike, and we're absolute fail cakes. So there, don't do that. Anyway, game creator, what's the biggest game you're responsible for then?
The biggest thing that I'm responsible for in gaming is easy to answer. I created the PlayStation trophy system, which is on every single PlayStation console from PS3 onwards.
I hate you for that. I hate you for one trophy, just one. Dead Space 2, impossible.
I didn't make that trophy.
I don't care. I
just came up with the idea of
your bell end. I hate that fucking trophy. It ruined the game for me. But continue.
Oh, thank you. So that was probably the biggest, because every single video game has it that's on a PlayStation console. So, which is quite nice. I like to think that my signature is scrawled across every game that you buy for PlayStation. My wanky signature's there.
I'm sure it's wanky something.
Something, yeah. And then biggest, I've done some really cool games. Did things like the Getaway. That series did about 7 million sales, 6 million, 7 million sales. For Honor did a few million. SingStar, I did SingStar, that did 35 million. I mean, that was one of the first $1 billion revenue generating games. So,
was it?
The games, made it bankrolled things like indirectly, it bankrolled a lot of Sega's PS2 development. So things like God of War.
It's all thanks to you, then. Sony would be destroyed without you.
No, there's teams like even the trophy system. Like I came up with the core direction. I was like, this is what the trophy system is. This is how it's going to work. This is the reason why each trophy exists. Here's some designs for stats and stuff. But then there's still like 60, 70 people that go off and make it, do all the calculations for trophies, do all the graphics. It's the same with games. It's like all these game directors like Hideo Kojima would stand up and I made Metal Gear Solid. It's like, yeah, you had a overarching influence on it, but there were thousands of people that make these things, right? So as game developers, we stand up and we say I a lot, and actually it's more of a we than an I.
That's fair enough. To be honest, trophies have made a difference. When I got Skyrim, the first time Skyrim came out, not the 25th, but the first time it came out, I felt like I had to platinum it, and I did. And I always thought, why doesn't Oblivion have this? I love Oblivion more than Skyrim. I would love to say I've platinumed Oblivion, but there's nothing. I always wanted them to go back and add trophies or re-release the fucking game, but it never happened.
Yeah, I kind of wish that. I played it on Xbox because of the achievements on there, and they were really good.
There are achievements on the Xbox One. I completely forgot about that. I don't do Xbox. I'm more loyal to Sony than you, by the sound of it.
Well, I'm just a gamer. I got every game's console.
Every game console.
Well, not every game console. You can't see it, but viewers, he's looking at a picture of me of shelves of consoles in the background there. But I do like picking up a lot of the consoles. I don't like Xbox is my smallest games collection, but there's like some games on there that are pretty cool. And the good thing is if you like collecting games and Tom will know this is going back and buying consoles that are no longer the current gen console, like buying a PS3 and then picking up games for 50p.
Don't give that away. They're terrible. You don't want to buy them PS3 games. They suck. You know what? That is actually a thing. As a YouTuber, like even though our influence is small, yours is still bigger, but like it's not in the hundreds of thousands of subs. We've influenced people going out and buying games that we like, and you think, why did I do that? Now it's more expensive. I'm such a cunt. I think for you, the best example is so Mike collects Mega Drive games. He wants to get all of them. And every so often, if you want to make Mike angry, you just say Superman on Mega Drive. So I'll let you have a little bit of rant of this before we get to the normal topic of the podcast. Mike, why is Superman on a Mega Drive a touchy subject?
It's Death and Return of Superman that's the touchy subject. So Death and Return of Superman on the Mega Drive is a game that is broken. There's a bug in it where you can't get past the second or third level, it will crash.
Really?
And there's like it's like a 70% chance of it crashing. So you've only got like a 30% chance of getting through to the next level anyway. It's always been an expensive game because they pulled it. Now they didn't pull it and take it off the shelves. This was back in the 90s, right? It's not like the internet where people would have known it. They would have just not stocked it again. So a good 20,000 units went out there, but they never carried it on. And because of that history of it being cancelled essentially and not having a longer run, it put the value up. So 350, expensive, right? For a game.
Yeah.
Then one day, from June to July, someone sold a copy for 600. And I'm like, hang on, what? 600? How's that even possible? Then a week later, another one sold for 800. I was like, hey, why are you spending 800 on this? 2 weeks later, one sells for 1,300. And then one sells for 1,500. I'm like, this game just 5-6 weeks ago was 350 and it's now 1,600. Anyway, I did a load of digging around. I spoke to a load of people. And I didn't do like hardcore investigative journalism, but there's a guy I know who owns a console shop in Germany, online console shop in Germany, and he said they've been following they follow prices a lot on eBay because that defines what they sell for things in their shops. And they said there's these guys that have been watching in Spain, or girls, who basically what they think is happening, they will sell a game high and buy it off themselves, and then do it again and buy it off themselves. And so what they do is they set the price on eBay, because people look at it and go, hang on a minute, it's sold twice for a really high price. Then people go in and sell it at a higher price. Someone real buys it. Then these guys go in and go, oh, cool, now the price has gone up. Let's go actually sell our game and sell it again. And we'll make a nice tidy profit on that. So I did a whole video on kind of just how as game, if you're a game collector or if you're a fan of games, is not to fall into that trap of, if you know a game should cost this, there's no way on earth that it's going to go double, let alone 10 times the price of what it would normally be. So it was just kind of like, as a community of gamers, we should probably just be aware of things like this happening. There's my rant over.
It had to be done. So you've sort of said the same thing on YouTube before about how some prat would have bought it, sold it to himself, sold it himself. You've said that before on YouTube.
Yeah.
Good. That means we haven't given away any horrible secrets of how to be a complete bellend.
No.
For us, it comes naturally, so don't worry. Anyway, you know who Retro Gamer Boy is. You know Mike is Retro Gamer Boy. You know about the channel. You know about some of the things he's done in the gaming world. Now you're going to know more about why he picked these 3 games today. So, Michael, your modern game is one that could arguably be a retro one, but don't worry, it's not for today. We've got another one for that. Your modern game is the one you're playing now, and you haven't completed it, right?
Correct.
Right, so I will do my absolute fucking best not to give away any spoilers. The funny thing is,
spoil it though.
Well, someone help me out here. What do I tell him? This is going to crush him. Oh, wait, I like that. The game's different. Anyway, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Part 1 of 2078 pieces, being released over the next million years by the fucking feel of it. Why have you picked this game?
So I wanted to pick something that I'm currently playing. And Final Fantasy VII Remake is something that I've been looking forward to for a very long time, but never thought it would ever come out because of how huge that game is. So I saw it when it came out. I wanted to get it, but I was super busy with new job and with other games. And then I asked for it for Christmas, and I got it for Christmas. So I sat down and I've played. Where have I played up to? I've just beaten the crab monster guy at the reactor. So we're about to escape. Super early into the game, right? It's the kind of tutorial, essentially.
Yeah, but it feels so good at that point because the only real add-on bits... Oh, no, wait, I'm not sure if that's before or after. All right, I'll shut up about that. But there's not much change. There's not much deviation from the original game, is there? You haven't spotted much.
No, there's bits and bots, and with a remake, there's 2 types of remakes, right? There's a faithful remake, and then there is one that kind of embellishes on the original. So I've done a remake. I did Mafia Definitive Edition, which is a remake of the original Mafia game that came out in 2002. So I kind of know how sometimes as a games developer, you'll change things, not because you're being an arsehole, but because actually it might make the game better. So I really like the combat system. I was dead set I'm going to play classic, but I thought actually I'm going to give the new combat system a chance. I was like, actually, I really like this running around, hacking and slashing things. I quite enjoyed that aspect of it. But there's been some change to storyline. Like it starts off very differently. It's got that whole flying across the desert to Midgar, and then you eventually get to Ares standing outside that leaking, polluting power portal and walking across the road. So, but apart from that, yeah, it's been pretty close to the original so far.
So graphically, you can't deny that it's astounding. It's taken everything that your younger mind would have been able to see back then, and just like, you make up the shit you're seeing, don't you? Like when you play an 8-bit game, you've got all this crap going on in your head, yet it really is not that. This is like breathing life into that, isn't it? The things that were in your head when you played the original PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy VII, that's now a thing. You don't need to imagine. I guess this is why kids today are such fucking zombies, really, isn't it? We had to imagine shit.
Well,
there's not a lot of that now.
I got a PlayStation Classic for Christmas as well. So I sat down and with the kids, we played to that same point first in Final Fantasy VII.
You were educating them, were you?
I educated them. And my son's like, I said, should we play the remake? He's like, no, keep on playing this. It's brilliant. So I said, well, look, we'll come back to this. Okay, if you want to. Let's just try the modern one. And we got 5 minutes into the modern one. He's like, yeah, just play this one.
Oh,
just play this one. Yeah,
you should have gone a bit further.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 7, but my daughter was the same. They're like, yeah, don't play the other one. We couldn't even see what was going on with the graphics. Play this one because this one looks really cool. So, yeah, I think
I wish you had got to just escape in Midgar and go, there you are. You do not need to see the rest because it's not on this disc.
Yes. Yeah.
I hate it for that, by the way. I could rant forever about, all right, you haven't given me the full game. I'm a bit pissed at that. But is the second part even fucking ready? I have no idea, but there doesn't seem to be any word about it.
I don't know how they're going to ship the second part, right? I can see the first part because the first part is self-contained, right? Midgar is like essentially the setting scene, but then once you go into the open world, what happens there? Is there going to be I don't know, are they going to lock off areas so you just won't be able to get to them? So you're like, oh look, I should be able to get into this place, but it's locked off because it's going to be on a future disc. That would be fucking weird. And especially is what all I'd do in that time, if they'd locked off more of the storyline and then another disc comes out afterwards, I'm going to be grinding in the open world. And by the time it comes to the new disc coming out, I'm probably going to be level 999 on every single character.
Yeah, I don't think they've planned it very well at all. Although I did get my hopes up some point a few months ago or whenever it was. This game, the remake part 1, was the free game on PlayStation Plus. That's how my son got his copy, and I thought, son of a bitch, if I just waited a bit, I wouldn't have had to spend all that fucking money. God damn it. He got the game. He didn't like it, which is strange because he loves old RPGs. He will level up and train his team forever, but he said on that one he didn't like it. It didn't feel the same. So, okay. But when that came out there for free, I thought, that's it. They're going to announce 2. This is their way of making sure more people are interested. And that was it. We haven't heard shit. Nothing's happened.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, right? I don't know what they're going to be doing for the open world. If they do the open world as in like Final Fantasy XII's open world, right, where it's you're down with the characters and you're running across everything, that's going to take fucking forever to model and build, right? Because you're going to have to build out what was essentially on Final Fantasy VII just a little chibi character running around huge across the landscape. If you shrink it all down so it's 1-to-1 scale, imagine having to model out the entire planet as environments. I think it could be pretty insane. The worst thing they can do, and this is my biggest fear, is that they do a Final Fantasy 13 and that you can't walk across the world and you go down a sodding corridor and they make a corridor game. That would sodding kill it.
You know what? If we ever have you on this podcast again, which, there's no reason why not, we've got to just say the modern games could be Final Fantasy 13 and it's just going to be a bitch session. Because I haven't covered a bad game in this podcast yet. I keep thinking maybe I should do that sometime. Not always talk about good shit. Have something that people love to swear about. But I've just had a little brainwave because I don't want to spoil anything for you for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't want to do that.
You can't spoil anything.
No,
I played it.
Yeah. Story doesn't. Yeah. Anyway. There's this one bit in the game I was playing and I thought, you know what, I've become pretty fucking good now because I won't lie, there was one point where I got lost I was being a dick. It was like, keep going left, keep going left. Why do I keep going in a circle? Oh, yeah, circles tend to keep going in one direction. So if I now turn right, I found the right way, dick. But I was stuck there for ages and I leveled up a lot,
Yeah.
So when I'm out past that bit that I'm not going to tell you about because it's fucking embarrassing, I thought, I'm pretty tough now. I can handle anything. And then there's these little group of guys that come along on screen and they're there saying they want to pick a fight with Cloud and that. I think they were after Aerith. Maybe they were the Turks. Can't remember them because they weren't in the fight. You think, come on, I'll have you. No worries. And then they step to one side after they've summoned a monster, and you just sort of see the monster coming along. I'm like, oh no. Oh no. Is it big? No. Is it tough? Yes. Is it menacing to look at? No, it's a fucking joke. It's Tonberry.
Oh, you're
I
kidding
just saw
me.
one and thought, oh my fucking shit, I am screwed. And I died so many times. So many times this little prick would just waddle up to one of my teammates, go, dead. Fuck me. The highest of levels and all that doesn't matter when you get stabbed by that cunting butter knife. You got that to look forward to, but at least when it happens, you'd be like, okay, Sega heads would look out for this shit. Up, dead. Great.
I hope they haven't done that. Was how Final Fantasy 13's combat system worked, where it didn't matter what level you are, they would always be X number of levels above you. And the thing about RPGs that I really like is if I choose to become the biggest, baddest asshole in town in the first 5 minutes of gameplay in the game, then that's my choice. If I want to then just be able to just walk over the entire game as a god, that's my choice, right? And I hate these games that will, apart from Skyrim, I think, but the Final Fantasy games that basically say, oh, you're 3 levels and your grinding counts for shit. That pisses me off, because you could just Final Fantasy 13 just race all the way to the end and you'll have as tough a battle as if you were level 999.
Yeah,
right?
I hate that. It reminds me with Final Fantasy 6. First time I was doing that, I thought, I've trained like mad. I had spent hours and hours with the knowledge that the next bit was going to be the final area and I probably wouldn't be able to get out of there. So I wanted to be fully prepared. But I also wanted to make sure I didn't go to the final area and it's like, I don't have this. Fuck. So I did a little bit of a look online, not a full walkthrough. It's just like things you should need before going to Kefka's tower or whatever. Everyone said Ultima. It's like, shit, I've somehow missed that. Where do I get that? So I just made sure I got Ultima, but I had already leveled myself up like fuck, got to the final boss, and I'm just splooging Ultima over him. None of my teammates died. I think I leveled up too much, but never mind. I beat the game fair and square. And yeah, I do hate it when you play a game like 13 where it doesn't matter if you did all them extra hours, you got that spell that's meant to help. It doesn't. It's useless.
Yeah.
Wasn't the first Final Fantasy like that? The one on NES?
I can't remember. I mean, I've only played that once.
Original. Oh, really? I've played it a few times, but I've never beaten it simply because, the first one I played was 8, then 7, then 9. So I got all these great story ones. Then you play 1. Well, there's nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
No.
I've got one on the PlayStation. I got the PlayStation 1 had the compilations, the 2 or 3 compilations.
What was it? Anthology and Origins.
Yeah. Origins, yeah. So I got that and I tried to play 1 on there, and they've added tons of stuff to it. And I was kind of like, I was kind of looking for the original. I'd hoped they'd put an original mode in there.
Yeah.
But it's all chibi characters and cutscenes and all that kind of stuff. But
that was the first one I got as well. I remember thinking, the gameplay looks pretty good for 2D. Then you see the 3D cinematics. You're like, whoa, that's fucking horrible. It's like a bunch of Barbie dolls dancing around and shit.
Yeah. Got that. But
so what are you enjoying most about the gameplay in a 7 remake?
I quite like the combat. When was it 12? Yeah, 12 had that combat system, wasn't it? Where they moved away from turn-based to real time. I really liked that. I really liked when they did that. I still love turn-based stuff, but I found that more immersive. So I'm enjoying that in Final Fantasy VII. Switching between the characters is a little bit awkward at the moment as I'm playing it. But apart from that, love it. And the visuals, there's so many things in there, like when you're in the lift and when you're going through the power plant. And so there's a lot of stuff where I know this game. They've done a really good, well, at least the bits I've played, right? There's some good arcing back, so seeing some of the enemies in really nice 3D rather than 4 polygons on the screen is really cool. So so at the moment, because I haven't played much of it, I'd say visuals and the combat system I'm kind of enjoying.
What about the music then? Because the music in the original was fucking awesome. It stood out from so many other games at the time, didn't it? Industrial, fantastical sort of directions within the music. It's like, can you think of anything else like that at the time? I can't. If it was going to be a fantasy game then, it was all swords and magic and very typical. But then they bring out this steampunk shit and it's actually awesome.
Yeah.
I love how they've managed to remake that faithfully, yet not too far away from the original sound. They've kept some of that old 32-bit goodness,
Yeah, I agree. But I think PlayStation did great there. Anyway, the original PlayStation was CD based, right? So a lot of the games you were suddenly getting crystal clear voiceovers and amazing soundtracks. Like Symphony of the Night, I've been playing that. Not the original, the digital download version from the store, but like the sound and that is just like wow. It was such a massive jump considering what we'd all been playing before to go to that from an audio perspective. It was just it was amazing.
So we're gonna have a little talk, probably not on a future podcast, but maybe on Live at the Arcade when you've beaten this game, because there's a lot of things. When he said to me earlier, I've picked Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was like, oh, good. I've got so much to say. He's gone, yeah, well, be careful. I haven't completed it. I'm like, oh, fuck it. So much I can't say. So when you've beaten
how can it deviate from the storyline that much, though? I can't see it deviating much from the storyline unless, like, fucking Yuffie comes in and she's some kind of Shinra overlord or something.
All right, let me put it this way. Final Fantasy VII, whether you love it or hate it, you can't deny the story is so complicated that when you get to the end of it, you think, okay, right, let me just think what? And you get stuck in this spider web of storytelling and you're like, oh no, I get it now. I didn't get it then, but I get it now. Yeah, it was very complicated.
Yeah.
I think the Japanese have decided, you know what? That's not complicated enough. We're going to put some more spider webs on that spider web. We're going to take a spider, place it on there, hit it with a shoe. The story now, I can't say much except for the fact of what the fuck? And I'll leave it at that. I can't wait to hear you come back and say pretty much the same thing.
Okay, all right then. I'm looking forward to this. I got a week off where I'm just going to hammer it.
Go for it.
How long is it?
How long is
it?
The
like
game?
40 hours? Is it 40 hours or 16 hours or 100 hours?
Pass. It was a while ago. I did it as soon as it came out because I thought this won't drop in price. Fucking idiot. But it's one of them ones.
I think it's like 10 quid now or something.
I know.
Isn't it?
I thought it's gonna be like a Zelda or a Pokemon. It won't drop, so I might as well just buy it now.
Yeah.
That was a total mistake. That was a real balls up. I'll tell you what, when part 2 or whenever it is finally comes out, it's gonna be so many people who go, I'm gonna get that. Not yet.
Yeah.
Their sales are gonna suck and they're not gonna know why. It's gonna be because of that though.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's finally move on to the next game. Now, this is your retro game, which is also an RPG. And whereas Final Fantasy, if you go back, that's one of the first RPG games to hit console. Not one of the first RPGs, but you had Final Fantasy, you had Dragon Warrior / Dragon Quest, which I've covered before. But now you have what I think is the best of the three. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it. And that is the Master System game, Phantasy Star. Why'd you pick that one?
Yes. I got a huge amount of nostalgia for it to start off with. My dad bought it and it was my console, but he bought it on my console. And we played it together. So essentially I would map out all the dungeons and we would kind of swap between battles. So there's a nostalgia element there, but it just blew me away. I mean, it was absolutely mind-blowing. Like the visuals in it, the different monster designs in it. When you went down into the dungeons and you had that kind of 3D thing and the sound going on, And the soundtracks, oh my god, the soundtrack was amazing. And then the whole storyline, like the first time we went from one planet to another, I was like, what? I'm going to a different planet. And then you get different vehicles that you can traverse
He's
with.
saying too many things in one. I've got to spread him out. Fucking hell.
Oh
All
my
right.
god. It's
going into the dungeons was awesome because it had the perspective of first-person view. You were able to walk along, but there was only one problem. All the bloody walls looked the same. You could get lost so fucking easy. You did have to draw out a map on preferably grid paper. I've tried doing that. I haven't completed the game doing it that way, which I know is unfaithful. One of these days I will. I'll think, right, I'm going to set myself 6 months to one side to complete this authentically without cheating, because I can't remember where everything is. So I've needed help in the past.
I've got my original document where it has every single dungeon in the game mapped out on grid paper 1-to-1, but not just every single dungeon, but every single world mapped out 1-to-1. So every step we took, we would map a square.
This is a map you've made.
Yeah, a map I've made. So
you still got that from back then?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I'm jealous. And I don't have any of that kind of crap.
Literally, it's mapped 1-to-1. So you can I've got a map of the world where it's like each square represents one step of your character. And it's mapped 1-to-1, the entire thing, where all the secrets are, what potions, what things are in different treasure chests, all mapped out. We went insane level of detail on that one. But and I think that's why it was so amazing, is because a lot of the RPGs then, or at least a lot of RPGs we've been playing were quite light. That were very similar, right? They were very derivative of the same thing, right? They were fun to play, but they were the same sort of thing. Whereas
there wasn't much dungeon crawling at the time. That wasn't a term, except for, was it Ultima? It was either Ultima or Wizardry that was pretty much just a dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
But Phantasy Star was like one of the first to go, what if I take that and I take that and I sort of mesh them together? No one else really tried that.
No, it was so amazing. But like I said, you just go to different worlds, meet all the different characters that you've got to start to add to your party, all the submissions, because you've got like the Dracula in one submission that you go off and can kill. And there's areas that are blocked and you can't get past those areas on the world map until you do something else. And it was just insane. But really, really enjoyed it. Like, I'm a fan of RPGs. And this one, I think Phantasy Star kicked off my kind of my love for RPGs in a big way.
I would love to go on a rant about Phantasy Star 2 and why it disappointed me, but we're not here to talk about that today. But it's related to the dungeon thing. Do you remember, like, the first time you go into a dungeon? Yeah, that blows your mind. I think it was orange walls. You're down there traveling, and then later on you go into a magenta sort of colored one, and it's just like, oh my fuck, they're different colors. This is the best game ever. It's like, wow, different colors pleases you. That's good.
And they've done the visuals to make it look like the light was fading in the distance as well.
Yeah.
And so, like, at the time, I was like, as a kid, you come up with so many bullshit facts. I was like, yeah, that must be real. Like, they're calculating how the light's falling on the walls. And you can convincing your friends, and your friends are like, oh yeah, that must be how they're doing it. And actually, no, it's just fucking, they've just drawn it. It's a texture.
It's because you had imagination back then, unlike the kids of today. Again,
so many facts. I think this is the great thing about like the 16-bit console wars is as kids, you'd come up with so much bullshit facts. Like, one of the bullshit facts that would go around our school is that the EA Mega Drive cartridges, there was a special chip inside the yellow bit. And that was giving it like extra power to make the games look good. And I like, as I got older, I was like, that's nothing. It's got to be bullshit. That I'm going to open one up. It's nothing. It's just a bit of plastic that claps onto the side. It's a bit crap. But as kids, that's definitely got to be how they're getting great graphics for Desert Strike, because it's got some special extra chip inside the yellow thing. But
the imagination went mad. It was just a case they didn't want to buy Sega's cartridges. We're like, no, fuck you, and make our own. It's cheaper.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
And of course, no legal rights to the design of the other ones, so had to make their own up. I don't know why they thought, oh no, let's add a bit of plastic. You're trying to make it cheaper. You don't add a piece. You just change the fucking shape.
Well, I think they were trying to make people think that there was something special about the cartridge.
Maybe that was it. Tried to just make it look better than Sega's one. That could actually be a good arguing case for it. So also, Fantasy Star over here, we did miss out in one aspect compared to the people in Japan. That's music. Because the console in Japan, which was the Mark III, SG Mark III, whatever, that had a built-in chip where you could get a more orchestral sort of sound quality for games. And over here, we didn't fucking get that. So you're more of a tech head than I am. What can you say about that, the differences and why they might have done it?
It's going to be cost to market. So, they want to make more money per unit, per console that they sell. So a lot of these things, they'll reduce the tech in it as they go to different markets. So if you think when we got the Master System, it was already on like version 3 or 4, the Master System.
I suppose it would have been the 4th because they eventually changed the shape in Japan. We got that shape of Master System before they did for some fucking reason.
So they would have been kind of testing in their home market. So Japan did this a lot. They test in their home market. If it's successful and it looks like it's got potential, then they'll do a revision on the hardware, and then they would have gone out to larger markets, right? And that's why we got things like the Mega Drive 2, Master System 2 as well, because as they started to get more and more sales, they're kind of like, cool, can we get our chipset smaller and the tech inside it cheaper, but it do basically the same thing. We'll cut a couple of features out, but it does basically the kind of same thing. And console developers still do it today. You look at the PlayStation 3 when it came out, it had all those memory card ports on there, had a ton of stuff in there. And then when you look at the final revision of the PlayStation 3, doesn't even have an automatic door or ejecting system now, right? It's just a flip
the
up
super slim,
down. Yeah, and they don't drop the price by a huge amount. Definitely not enough to warrant the amount of parts they've cut out of it, but it increases their margins and the amount of money they can make on that. So that's what would have happened there with the sound chip and the Master System.
Yeah, mind you, talking about Master System and the price drop of designs, when they did Master System 2, that did incur quite a big price drop. It was something as much as £50, I think.
Yeah.
If you bought the version 1 of the version 2, you think, I can't think of another console that's had that big a drop, because a Mega Drive 2, you think, yeah, all right, we now know that was because they had stripped tech and done it with cheaper stuff. They knew how to build it easier and better. Same how they do it these days with Sony's slim consoles. But the price wasn't better. They just advertised it going, the all new Mega Drive. You think, oh my God, I want it. Even though the sound in that is actually not a lot, but it's a little bit worse. And connectivity to some things is shit as well. But yeah, I think the Master System was the only one to have such a big price drop for lessening the tech.
Yeah, but they were still making tons of cash, because you got to remember all those. So you get the more chips that you develop, the cheaper the cost of the chip would have been. So they cut out the 3D glasses and card port that went. They cut out a ton of plastic that was going around there. They cut out LEDs for the lights. They reduced some of the internals of that, and then their chipset itself had also come down in price. So they probably were making still more of a profit on each one of the Master System 2s, probably a great deal more profit than they were making on the Master System 1s.
Probably, yeah. But so you're saying to buy more is cheaper and, financially wise. So you must have done this with your EA games design box that you've done. So everyone out there must know that Retro Gamer Boy, aka Mike, has designed his own EA games casing, which you can put your EA Mega Drive games in. And you know what? It does look pretty fucking awesome. It does. He's done a video announcing, showing it, and all this crap. It's great. Check out the Retro Gamer Boy channel for more info on what that looks like. Of course, this is a podcast. There's not a lot I can do to fucking show you. But Mike, you must have bought and made thousands then. Thousands.
No. I went for a small run, which meant that every unit cost me a fuck ton of money. I just wanted one, but no one would sell me one. So I had to buy 50. And that meant that each one of those boxes cost me way more than you'd spend on, a decent indie game. Just for a cardboard box. But if I bought if I bought 10,000 boxes, it would have cost me pennies per box. But again, like I said, I wasn't trying to sell it. I just wanted one. But yeah, it does leave me in the difficult situation where I'm now stuck with 49 boxes that I'm asking people to buy at stupid price.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Video game creator, successful YouTuber, and financial retard. Pretty much. Now, we must have rambled for too long, but what else should we say about Phantasy Star before we have to move on?
I think if you haven't had the chance to play it. It's out on the Nintendo Switch as well, in their Sega ages. And they've done a couple of things in there that make things a lot easier for people that are just coming to the series, because back then it would have been a little bit harder. So they've added in a map which you didn't have in the original game, so you can find where you are.
That fucking map.
Yeah, there's save states. You can save anywhere, and you can actually speed up the lessen the number of encounters you have, but increase the amount of XP you get. So the old game, you'd basically have to fight lots and lots and lots of battles, and that would give you a small amount of XP. But it was annoying because you couldn't make progress, and so what they've done is they've introduced a system now that allows you to have less encounters but get more XP per battle. So
yeah, to make up
just
for
flows a lot better. Yeah, flows a lot better.
Yeah, it's nice for someone like you and me where we think, I know I've played it on the original hardware. I know I've completed it. I want to play the game again. I don't want to spend 10 hours trying to get through this fucking dungeon, trying not to use this spell because I know I need it for the dickhead at the end. The Switch version is very good for that, but it's also very good for the young people that you really want them to try it, but you just think they have not got the patience. They just haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very good point about the Sega Ages one. I'd forgotten about that version because I always just think of the Master System. There's no hope for me. But yes, go out and try the Switch version. It's fucking cheap as well, which is even better. And we've managed to avoid story, which is good. Because it's funny, you think with the free Final Fantasy again, Dragon Quest again, and Phantasy Star actually had the richest amount of story. Because Final Fantasy story was basic. Dragon Warriors one, let's be honest, it was so basic, it was crap. Let's just be fair. Dragon Warrior games, Dragon Quest games now, they're great, but the original one has not aged well. It's a fine wine with piss in it. But anyway, that's Phantasy Star. Now we're going to go on to Mike's indie game. Now, this is not the one I expected you to pick. And I know jack shit about this game. So you're going to be edumacating me. This game is called Eastward. I don't know what it's on. I don't know what it's like. I don't know the genre, although I'd bet a tenner it's a fucking RPG.
Yeah, it's an action RPG, I'd say.
More Zelda-esque than Final Fantasy-esque.
Okay. Yeah. It is stunning. It kind of hits this really nice balance for me of the kind of 16-bit pixel art that I love. But it's a modern 16-bit art style. It's got tons of colors in there, lighting effects in there, but all the characters are hand animated with pixels. The world is hand animated and drawn pixel art style, but it's very, very modern. Those really cool looking pixel art style games. And it's got an unbelievably brilliant storyline in it. The action RPG element in it is just perfect. It's all run around, hit things, get XP for them. So then and then you can upgrade as you would in any RPG. But it's on the Nintendo Switch, and it's about this guy who lives in a community. They live in underground. It's in the future, and they live in our old tunnels, like our old subway and tube tunnels. And they basically, his job is he's a digger. And what they're looking for is stuff from the old world that they can sell. They may find a coffee pot or batteries or whatever that they're digging up. And he digs up a girl. He finds a girl that's been in a capsule, and he adopts her as his daughter. And you've basically followed them as they actually quite quickly in the game. It's not a spoiler. They realize that there is way more than just this underground world, and they break out to the surface and they go on this awesome adventure. I've not finished it yet, but they go on this awesome adventure, and it's just stunning. You got to play it. It's just storyline is constantly loads of characters to talk to, loads of characters to meet, people to add to your groups, power-ups you get, new weapons that you get, fun mini games that you can play. They've even got a Nintendo-esque NES game RPG that you can play within the RPG game. So there's this game that's popular with the kids in these towns, and it's an RPG, and you've got only so many days to play in this other RPG, which is inside the RPG. You've only got like 5 days to kill the main boss, and then you fail. But when you play it again, you get all your characters that you'd collected at new levels, and so you can upgrade. And so it's one of those games that you play over and over again. So it blows my mind, this game. I'm having a ton of fun with it. If you've not played, if you like RPGs or action RPGs or that kind of 16-bit era stuff, then you just got to check it out. Really, really good.
It's quite a cheapish game then, is it?
I can't remember how much it cost me. I think it cost me £14.
That's not too bad. No physical version then?
I think they're going to do a physical version. It might be like a limited run thing, as a physical version, but I would love a physical version of it. I am really enjoying it. It's so easy to get into and play, and the world is so stunning. It's so stunning, and all the characters in it are just amazing. It's just definitely worth picking up and playing.
Well, I was about to say it looks very very much like Stardew Valley, but I think, is it created by the people that made Stardew Valley? Chucklefish or something like that? You've turned it on, you'd have seen the thing. Yeah. Published by them.
Published, but so they definitely published by those guys. But actually, Stardew Valley for art style is a good reference point. That's a modern pixel art game. You know that you couldn't have drawn Stardew Valley on the Mega Drive with some of the effects and color palette that it does.
I'd love to see someone try.
Oh, it would be quite good, actually. Yeah. It would be quite good. But yeah, it's the creativity in the world is stunning, and because it's kind of this post-apocalyptic, but not dark post-apocalyptic. It's kind of really rich and colorful, but there's monsters that have come into the world, and you get to fight them. You start off with a frying pan, and you go through weapons, and you can upgrade your weapons, and you can upgrade your storage that you're picking up, and it's so good, so well done.
I might have to buy that then, because I only got a couple of games for Christmas. One of them was PS4 game Shinobolite. It looked really cool on the surface. I've played it for 1 hour and I'm bored to piss. I mean, no motivation to keep playing. None.
Yeah.
The other game is a multiplayer one, which I won't say because I might cover it in a future podcast, but that's only for when I'm with friends. Single player's pretty dull. So this Eastward might be the answer for me. £15 isn't too bad. So I might do that.
It's a nice time filler, this one. And not in a bad way either. It's just it's so gorgeously done. And they got little puzzle things as well. Like it's like, oh, the power's off, and you have to like hit these cables to kind of knock them together. Nothing that's going to kind of be too difficult for anyone to do, but it just breaks up the gameplay. And it's got those classic RPG things where you go into a room and you search everything trying to find stuff. It's like, oh yeah, you found a potion, or you found a this, or you found a that. Very cool.
It's funny. Earlier on, I was trying to find some info on it, everyone, and I couldn't find anything. And now I know why. It's because the way people are saying it, Eastward, it's not Eastwood, it's Eastward. So I'm looking at the wrong fucking thing. I've got Eastward. I'm like, why are there pictures of Clint Eastwood here?
Sorry, that's my South African accent coming in there.
I work with South Africans. They're some of the most violent people I've ever met. Although one of them does look like the actual, how do I put it? The physical manifestation of Peter Griffin.
Oh, really?
If you met this guy and then you hear the South African accent come out of his mouth, you just think, I didn't expect that. I was expecting him to say, hey, Lois. But he's the spitting image of him. So other than that, what else can you tell us about Eastward? So don't go Googling Eastwood, everyone's Eastward, W-A-R-D.
Eastward. You're going Eastward.
Yes, there you go. Not Eastward. Not
Eastward.
in a Western
Eastward.
film.
Eastward. Anyway, yes. What else can I tell you about it? I just think it's one of those games you're going to have to, as you're listening to this, perhaps Google, check out some videos of. It's very charming. Like the different worlds and towns that you visit are really nice. Some really good characters in there. The towns have got a lot of personality to themselves as well. Like you'll see things that are just out of reach, like treasure chests and things that you can get within the town. You're like, I don't know how to get those. And then later on, you'll get something, or you'll figure out a new pathway that leads you to that, and you can grab the treasure chest, and there's something cool inside of that. There's these little figures that you can unlock. You find coins, and you can go to I forgot what they call it. Is it gashapon in Japan? The little toys that you put your coins in, and you get a little egg out, and it's got the toy inside it. Anyway, you got that, and those toys, they work with the little RPG game that is in the game. So
you're collecting amiibos, right?
Essentially. So you go to in each town there's a games console outside the general store, and that's where you can play this other RPG game. But there's loads of stuff like that. Like there's stuff that you can do that's not necessarily pushing the main storyline on, but I've got clocked on just the little RPG game, the sub little RPG game. I've got something like 6 hours clocked on just playing that.
6 hours on the fucking mini game.
It's brilliant.
I've never heard of that.
I just completely lost myself in it. It's just so classic RPG. It's so brilliant. They could have just released that as a little RPG game and done really well with it. But it's really cool. There's some small skill areas where you've got like you're on like a raft of water, and you can only go in a direction that you're shooting in. So you'll kind of shoot one way, that will push you, and then you'll have to shoot in another direction, and that will push you another way. And then you'll have monsters shooting stuff across, and you've got to get the timing right. You've got things like that that are in the game. But again, you've got a ton of health. So if I always fuck up on those things. So I've had nothing that kind of out and out stops me. And I don't think I've died in the game. Maybe I've died right early on, but it's not one of those games where you're like, oh, I'm dead. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, I'm dead. It's not that kind of game, or that kind of RPG. You always feel like you're making some progress there. But yeah, I think a lot of people kind of get smitten with the world that they've created.
I'm looking forward to trying this now, simply because it looks so much like Stardew Valley. Your description has indeed sold it for me. But the character artwork, not the in-game character art, but the out of it looks very much like something out of the Beano. I kept thinking it's Dennis the Menace, but not Dennis the Menace. That's right, it's fucking Beano. It does look a bit like that.
Yeah, it's kind of got the block color characters. It's not high fidelity, but I think the pixel art is just stunning in it. So well drawn. You got these really nice like moments where you'll go. They got like this dream sequences, and you've got your own house. You always get a house or a place to stay, and you can upgrade it and improve them and stuff like that. So yeah, very cool.
Oh, great. So if I play that game and the missus is watching, it's like, oh, if only we could do that in real life. No, we're stuck in a council house. Shut up. Anyway, I think we've gone on enough now. Modern game of the day, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 of 2,689. Eastward, the indie game just mentioned, and the legendary Phantasy Star for the legendary Master System. All in all, fucking fantastic. Mike, have you had a good time on the 16 Bitchin' podcast?
I've had a bitchin' time on this podcast. Thank you for having me.
I like what you did there. If only I made the name for that reason.
Yes.
Who am I kidding? I didn't even make the name. I nearly forgot to point out, everyone. Mike and all of his achievements, game creator, financial fucking wizard, guy that made trophies, all of this. We've got to be fair. His greatest accomplishment is nothing to do with trophies or any of that shit. It's the fact that he designed the logo for this podcast. That's the best thing he's ever done.
Yes. That is on my CV as life achievement achieved.
Well, you've got officially one more than me, which is 0.
Oh.
So there you are. Anyway, thank you very much for enjoying this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe in the place where you are listening to. I can't be fucked to list them off. Or subscribe via the YouTube video, which I honestly thought would only be a thing for a couple of times, but it seems to be what people want the most as a platform to listen to this, so that was unexpected. But anyway, that's enough rambling. Thank you very much for listening to this shit. Mike, anything you want to say?
Flippity.
Man of many words, all of them bad.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.